to share.
Yeah. If not in this one, we will keep setting up times for our insights. So I just wanted to start by sharing some of the insight I've been receiving. As you know, I've been really trying to learn more and more about astrology, and I've just been fascinated with, the energetics of it all, really, and how it really is all connected. The frequency, gravity, electromagnetics. And so with this particular eclipse cycle, I'm particularly fascinated because it's huge. It's huge for us as individuals and for us as a collective.
Yeah.
So, as you know, the cycle started August 7th with the full moon eclipse. And it's really been intensifying, and it's going to culminate on Monday with the total solar eclipse that will be passing through America. So particularly in this region, I think we're going to feel it even more. So there's so many different aspects with the different planets in relation to the sun and the moon and all of that we can get into for hours and hours. But for the sake of time and intention, I really just want to talk about the eclipse energy and not get too bogged down in the details. So, there's so much information out there, and I've read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts from different astrologers, just intuitive people. And then I've sort of pulled what's resonated with me and left the rest. And what I've really gathered is that there's so much about this eclipse cycle that is about bringing out hidden parts of ourselves in the collective and within ourselves.
Yeah.
Bringing that to light so that it can heal.
Yes.
And this can manifest in so many different ways. But one particular story I heard on this podcast that really resonated with me, and it actually is a second pass to a conversation we had.
So that means validation, right?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to share this story, and then I want to receive your insight as well.
Okay.
So this is a story about the archetype of Persephone. So some people relate each archetype to a different planet, or the energy of that archetype to planets or different alignments. But it's really just about how it resonates with the collective energy and if it resonates with you or not. This resonated for me for the collective consciousness right now. And basically, I wrote down my insights, but I really don't want to read off a piece of paper. So I'm just going to share it as it comes. But basically, Persephone is all about the violation of women. And the story, the myth, is that she was raised by a mother who told her and taught her to be the good girl, to be seen and not heard, to not be too loud, to not be too much, to not talk about sex, to really just embody that good girl. She was protected, she was a little bit naive, and she couldn't use her full voice. So in the myth, Persephone gets kidnapped by Pluto and brought down into the underworld. And basically her innocence is taken from her in that experience. And, that's something that we can use as a metaphor for the healing of sexual violation in the collective consciousness. But it can also be, if you haven't experienced sexual trauma in this lifetime, it can be about the collective silencing of women and the collective sort of loss of innocence that happens in our society.
Yeah.
So I know there was something else about that too that resonated. I don't want to miss, so I'm just turning the page here.
It's a big topic and certainly has a lot to do with what people are feeling through this eclipse cycle, whether they're men or women.
Mm-hmm.
Because when women are violated by men, or when women violate other women, then the women don't know how to get full from the inside out. And we end up violating our sons.
Exactly.
We can't relate to our husbands, but we can relate to our sons. And that's a form of mental and emotional incest.
Yeah. So another thing too is that through this process, Persephone goes into herself and she's able to heal these violations and step into the totality of her womanhood. And she becomes this goddess of the underworld and basically embodying all of those parts of women that are often shut down.
Yeah.
It's also a call to the divine masculine to really hold the space for women to be the full goddesses that they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just a healing of that energy. And that's just one aspect, but that's one that really jumped out at me. And there's so much to it that, of course, is not coming to me right at this moment. But
that's enough. I mean, it really brings the topic to light. And, when we look at it from a bioenergetic perspective, it's not about a battlefield of who's right and who's wrong. It's about polarity and how to let your nervous system heal
from the shock and trauma.
From the shock and trauma. Yeah, that hits us like a baseball bat. And then there's these ripples in the nervous system. It's like taking a candle and blowing it out. It cannot relight. And so we get stuck on running this pattern. And the interactions that we have on this planet right now is a battlefield. It's a battlefield. And it's happening within families.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you look at where it's happening within the individual. Because if you understand the bioenergetic body, biology and energy, we know that whatever we're seeing and whatever we're feeling in the space between us in our relationships is a reflection of what's happening in our own subconscious mind. So it's all about light.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the capacity to receive light and to radiate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And an eclipse cycle, we're getting a download, aren't we?
Yeah.
Download of light.
A download of light that is bringing out some of the things we've kept repressed and hidden. And I think too that it's a time to ask like yourself, where are you not being truthful with yourself in what you need to heal?
Yes. Yes. And when it comes right down to it, in order to receive the light, we must be breathing. Because everything is received through breath and released through breath. If we look at basic embryology, we know that the lung and the large intestine is one organ, and the large intestine is the drain. So we have chronic constipation or chronic diarrhea right now that shows up in the physical body. But it's an indicator of withholding your breath. And we withhold our breath because of the shock. And so the best medicine is free. Really, the simplest way to receive the light through this eclipse cycle and to not get drawn into the dual thinking of me against them. There's this whole, when you start talking about the violation of women, there's this perception that it's women against men. And that's not what we're talking about anymore. That's done. We're looking at energetically the positive and the negative, right? And the positive is the radiant quality, and the negative is the receptive quality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that, that creates a circuit. And in our bodies, look at the woman's body. It's receptive. The man's body is radiant. Is one better than the other? No. We're designed to hold our space and know what our part is. Right?
And just like yin and yang, positive and negative, receiving and radiating, one can't be whole without the other being whole.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the new beginnings that this download of light is bringing, the new insights, and some of the endings of old ways of doing things, because that's a huge energy right now. And I know you have some insight on that.
Yeah, it is. I think to really understand much of what we talk about through Design of the Body and Unified Medicine Institute, it's the understanding that all disease, dis-ease, is a result of being out of alignment with your own integrity. And you can't understand what integrity is from the mind because it's a state of being. And so far, our language has been based in integrity looks like this. You make a deal with someone and you follow through with it. Blah, 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 right? And it's all horizontal. And there's no feeling involved. Well, yeah, there is. It feels solid if somebody keeps their word. But that's an old way, and there's validity to it. But now, if we begin to understand that we're living in a different time, the last century, there was so much war. And there was just a shift in the frequency of the collective. And to get through those phases, we used a certain way to connect. And it was rules, and it was rules around kindness and how you make agreements and all of that. And like I said, that's still valid. But where we are now, where we have more insight, it's more about being able to feel the rhythm and cycle so that we're in integrity with people because we're both responding to this rhythm inside. It's not these outside in rules.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we've needed government is because as a collective we descended into a certain frequency and now we're ascending back up into the knowingness of who we are as a collective.
And I just want to interject really quick that it's so clear when you look at the dates, because the last time we had a total solar eclipse was in 1918. So
yes.
How fitting that we're having another total solar eclipse now to mark the ending of that energy dominating in the beginning of this new insight and alignment that you're talking about.
Yes, so if you do the mathematics of the year, we have a universal language, and it's math.
Numbers.
Dates matter. And so 1918, and then 2017, yeah. It's the end of so we look at rhythms and cycles, and there's centuries, there's decades, there's years, there's months, and there's days. And our entire body is a crystal. It's designed to receive and to radiate, and to be able to do that, we want to focus right here. We want to be able to focus right here. And that's what's happening right now with this eclipse cycle as we're receiving our vertical polarity. That means that as we are ascending, our adrenal glands are healing. They're healing. And in order for us to be able to receive the light right now, the vibration of the adrenal glands, if you're in resistance about healing and you still see everything as good, bad, right, wrong, you're still labeling and judging instead of realizing that there is no dark and light. They're two parts of one thing. And so we're looking at the vibrational frequencies or the levels of light and how we relate to one another at the different levels. That's all. And at a certain point in time, when there's not enough light moving through our crystals, our bodies, our autonomic nervous system, this is really simple, the part of our brain that goes like this, it's not able to do this anymore because our adrenal glands took a hit from shock. And so now we're in fight or flight and we're just operating in survival. Well, that old way, it's passing away. And that's why if you look at the news or, you look at what Donald Trump appears to be doing, now people are going to wonder if I'm a Trump fan or not. I don't connect to that level.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. When you understand our bodies.
But you can see the collective, parts of the collective, rising up in fear and acting out in fear. And I think that's what you were trying to point to when you brought
Yes.
up.
So vibrationally, just understanding that bioenergetic medicine is all about resonance medicine. And it means that a healthy body that is disease-free is full of light. And if it's full of light, what does that look like through the physiology? It means that the two hemispheres of the brain are aligned with one pulsation, the rhythms and cycles of life. And to be able to align with that, the adrenal glands, just look at your kidneys. Again, there's this. Mm-hmm. And that's what we haven't had. We've been in fight or flight. And so if you stand on the land and you anchor into gravity and you just breathe, that's all we need to heal right now. Seems like a pipe dream, but that's the best way you can surf through this eclipse cycle and receive. And to understand that whatever feels tense in the space between you and another, there's some kind of belief system that's playing out between the two of you. If you'll claim that, first you have to get off of the battlefield. That means stop reacting. And that's breaking in a habit. So the first step in the cycle of shifting from an old way of reacting and moving into a new way of being able to respond, to be able to see it, to feel it, but not be drawn into the gravity of fear. Because we're anchored here. And our adrenals can see it, can sense it, can feel it. We can feel the pull. We can feel the violation. We can feel the desire to react. But we hold it.
And stop and breathe.
We stop and we breathe, and then we find words like these that say, this just doesn't feel good between us right now, and I don't have words to describe what it is that I really want. What I want is to honor you. And for me to be honored, that means that we're both heard, both seen, both understood.
That's beautiful. So any type of thing right now, relationship that appears to be in conflict is actually a gift because you get to practice aligning.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So if you look at cycles, this is a rebirth that's happening right now. And while we're in the birth canal, this cycle, the build-up for this creative cycle that's happening right now has been happening for Wheels within wheels, cycles within cycles, but definitely a whole century.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about purification in relationships. And so it's relationships with people, it's relationships with your phone, with the foods that you eat. Like right now, think about, you've been conditioned to follow diets because you've been out of touch with your ability to sense into what your body needs. And so we are now where the new earth, the new collective is moving, is that to be here, you must trust yourself. You must trust yourself. And to be able to trust yourself, you have to let your nervous system heal.
Yeah.
There's nothing to follow, nowhere to go. So it's big. We've got this eclipse that's coming right across the United States. Right?
Yeah.
And that matters. Because when you look at the collective mind, that means anyone that's in a body on this planet right now, in the third dimension. It also means those connected to us in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension. That's the collective mind. And so our body has the ability through each of our glands to connect to those different dimensions. Fifth dimension is right here. So, Lexi, this is, it's the core of what we look at when we look to create a world where love lives. It's creating the language of love and being able to feel what you feel and put words to it.
I'd just like to add to that, you're so good at connecting all the dots and integrating it all together. And I've totally learned that about you, but at first it was a little bit overwhelming because I was like, oh my gosh, so I need to learn about all these different sciences, all the different numbers, all the different geometry, all the different frequencies. So I went through a cycle of being caught up in doing the right thing.
Yeah, in outside-in learning.
Yes, and following the right protocols, following the right programs. And then when I let all that go and just woke up and breathed, and like you say, claim your space. That might look different for each person, but for me, that was just stating my intention, my heart's desire, and breathing. So much light is available to us right now that is all you need to do. And I've noticed, it's a helicopter, can you hear it?
You can't make this stuff up.
It's a big Chinook helicopter, which never flies over housing like that. Anyway, it's just that simple. Because the light is available, if you connect with your inner voice and breathe and you listen to it for the cues instead of looking for the diet to follow because you want to be healthy and lose weight, instead of, and then all this insight, and I'm naturally learning the science. It's coming to me and I'm absorbing it instead of reaching outside in this like fear state of wanting to know everything and wanting to be on the intellectual
level. That's all
level
intellect, right?
Yeah.
That's all intellect. It's all horizontal.
Yeah.
And even our cars travel horizontally. Beingness, right?
Yeah. So just breathing every morning and listening throughout the day to that voice when you're connected and catching yourself when you don't breathe. That's why that quote I shared with you yesterday had such a huge impact on me about how fear is just, I'm not going to get it right now, the right wording, but it's the essence of it is that fear is love holding its breath.
Yes, absolutely. It is, because we know through frequency medicine, we're able to measure the vibrational frequency. And what that means, it's the spin of the electrons in the atom. And so when we look at the frequency of light, which is what brings insight to our body. It's what connects all of our cells. When we look at that frequency of light and we look at the frequency of love, they're the same thing. They're the same thing. And so insight is brought through breath. And so as we breathe in and out, we bring this connected information through the collective, or we imprint it. And so people don't realize that whatever they're feeling in their body, they're responsible for. And that's what we're imprinting into everyone else. And so if we think that everyone else is the enemy and that we need their approval, that's the biggest thing. Because if you look at the old way of being, it was comparison, right? It was living life from the outside in, needing someone else's approval, needing to be validated. That's a collapsing system.
As you learn to trust yourself, it naturally collapses.
Yeah.
Because you don't seek it anymore, or to the same extent.
Yeah, you have firm, solid grounding. And that's where those upper triangles, you know, if you look at any of our Design of the Body or Unified Medicine Institute, you've got 2 triangles to really discern. All you have to do is look at those triangles to discern whether the voice inside of you is evil. That means that it's a downward spiral, that it's creating destruction, or if it's evolving and the voice of unconditional love will never, ever be in judgment. It doesn't see anything that needs fixing. It sees nothing needs rescuing. So it would never, ever look into another person's eyes with listening ears of how can I fix this? It listens from fullness and it sees the light within the other person's eyes.
So would you say then that when you're in judgment or rescuing or one of those downward spiral energies, you're actually in your head, not in your body, not in your heart?
You're not grounded.
You're not breathing.
You're not grounded and you're not breathing. And I know there are so many spiritual teachers and, you know, thought leaders and self-help gurus that it's all horizontal. It's all about a to-do list and following their way. And the key to be able to take in that information from other people is to be able to discern it through your own body. Because you have a mixture coming from everyone. And what that means is that there are pieces that fit for you and pieces that are for other people.
That's powerful.
And so our learning, our new way of learning is immersive learning. And that means you focus on what resonates, not focusing on, can I trust this person? And you wait to hear something that needs to be dismissed or something you don't understand, and then you push it away. Right? Or it can become a guilt hook. You know, like you want to follow this model that everyone else has had success with, but somehow you just can't follow through with it. And so you feel guilty and more broken. And the truth of the matter is that your way of doing it is a matter of being able to discern and take pieces from all over the collective and feel them in your body and create your own. That's what I've done.
Yeah, and that's why it starts with connecting with your vertical pole, breathing, grounding, because then you're able to more easily feel what resonates. And then, for me, I found the information that you're supposed to see to you more easily. You still might, you know, seek out books and things like that, but it's not so much of a struggle. You might agree with the ideas of somebody's protocol, like you were saying, but until you feel it, it's never going to work.
Right. All we have to do is think about the original shock. The original shock that you received as a child, each one of us received as a child. We're naturally born to express from the inside out. And our body develops from the inside out. In fact, its healing capacity, its ability to do that, relies on us expressing from the inside out, but we were taught not to do that. And so through this eclipse cycle, find your voice. And really the way that you find your voice is when I talk about this one pulsation that we're all aligned to, it's music. It's
which
music.
is also frequency.
Music is our mother, yes, which is also frequency, which is light, and it's felt. And so if you just take the word music, M-U, in ancient sounds, in the Chaldean sounds, it means mother. M-U means mother. And S-I-C means science. So it's the mathematical system of music. And so if you look at music, there's notes. And if you play those notes, they create color and shapes and sounds. We've got so much great technology now that bridges it all together.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
With that technology.
And so we want to watch where we hand over our power to look a certain way, right? Because that's the ultimate violation, is casting yourself down by comparison and seeking comfort by saying, okay, I'll just play small right now. Holding the space of grace means that you understand that no one can violate you, ever. The way that your crystal works is that you give people permission to plug into you. And we have to look at why would we do that? And the reason why we would do that is we see people as weak. Right? So if we're seeing other people as weak, that means that we don't really understand what life is. We haven't plugged in fully. We haven't surrendered our entire life to the rhythms and cycles that flow. So that's what the eclipse cycle's about. And it's intense right now because there is light that's coming in. And light, we know, if you look at just basic medicine, when you bring light to the body naturally heals itself, or it leaves. It transitions. And so there's a time and a place for all of that. Yeah. I don't think that most people know that where my work comes from is retaining my intuitive nature from the time that I was a child, being able to see the field, which led me into child development, which led me into medicine. With this whole desire, the whole way through, was to help people to develop the language of love, to be able to understand that this space between us is rich with energy and information.
And I really desire to do another session like this where we delve deeper into how your channel works. But I know you have to get to hot yoga. And so
I do.
Maybe we cut this one short and then, of course, continue at another date. But I think this was a lot of great insight, and I just feel so blessed to receive your gifts all the time, and I'm excited to share it with others.
It was wonderful to hear what you've been learning too about the eclipse cycle through your own research. And just, you know, the conversation that we had the other day about intuitive eating would be another one to revisit, just so that people can have an understanding of how simple the healing process is.
Yeah, definitely. So there'll be more series like this to come, and I'm really excited. And now that I'm in the flow of it, I'm not as nervous as I was when we started. I skipped over half of the stuff I wrote down about the eclipse, but I'm sure that's for a reason, and we got out what was supposed to.
Yeah. You know, when you post this, you could maybe just include your notes along with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that feels right, I don't know. It's
Maybe the drama triangles too. It depends where we post it, but we'll feel it out.
yeah, and we want feedback, right? So let us know, guys, what you're experiencing, and stay tuned. We're all feeling the same thing, exactly the same thing. Watch for the guilt and shame hooks. And I do just want to point out, for those of you that can see, the violet streak moving through Lexi's head.
That happens a lot when we're on these meetings.
Oh, you can hear the energy dissonance too of the power moving through. It just came through the speakers. So enjoy this intensification, everyone. Enjoy it. It's so powerful. There's so much magic. There's so much magic happening.
Thank you for the time, Donna.
Thank you too.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye for now.